after that, a couple days after that, where I texted his assistant and I said, hey, you know, does he need any more work with this? Like, how is he feeling about that? And he's like, he hasn't expressed anything to me, but I'll let him know that you asked.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had tried to possibly work with Alec more after that.
Okay.
So those are, like, the training days I kind of fought for. After his assistant, like, didn't really talk to me back, you know, I'm not exactly going to push for this really big actor to receive that training.
Okay. So in reviewing, like, first interview and then media statements, and now there's a little bit of inconsistency about when the gun was checked, or the rounds that were checked.
Okay.
You know, from my understanding, you checked them in the morning and then didn't take them out again after lunch.
Didn't take the rounds out of the gun after lunch? Well, you could,
like, they weren't checked again.
You could see that there were no primer caps. I checked the one that I had put in there after that.
Okay, but you said only 4 of them had no primer caps and the other 2 did.
Yeah, and the other 2 did. Yeah, I pulled that other one out slightly and looked for the hole.
I mean, the holes are at the bottom, though. You'd have to pull it out a pretty good ways.
I'm pretty sure it was, like, kind of midway up. Because, yeah, I checked it when I put them in there, and then, yeah.
Prior to lunch?
Yeah. Prior to lunch, and then, yeah. Afterwards, opened it up, checked it, yeah.
But by check, you mean just opening it?
Just pulled that one out, yeah, and also brushed it and put that other one in.
Okay. And I don't know if this is coming from you or if it was from him, this whole theory on somebody sabotaging the set.
Yeah. Jason kind of agrees with me on that. Well, you know, we've all kind of thought about what happened here, and a whole box with what Sarah said to be half live ammunition and half dummy ammunition, that doesn't happen. Like, you know, that's super weird that that would even be on set.
So who do you think would do that?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I will say right now that, you know, Seth supplies all the boxes. And then on top of that, I was beefing with Seth at the time. I don't really know. I don't want to speculate, but he's also been acting pretty weird towards me personally. And then...
So that would come after the incident, right?
Yeah, well, no, we had a whole ass argument, and we weren't talking during this incident. Like, we were in a full fight.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you had said you haven't seen Seth since before.
Yeah, we were texting, and I blew up on him over text messages.
Right, but I'm saying you stated you have not physically seen him.
I have not seen Seth, but like I said, Seth sends Sarah to set with things.
Okay.
And she was there first that morning.
Sarah?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's when that box came up for the first time.
Yeah. Also, you know, it could have been there
but
over the weekend.
But you said that you'd seen it, because it was sitting on top of...
That morning, right?
Yeah, I saw it that morning.
Okay.
On top of all my stuff.
When she got there, it was at 6:40-ish, and Sarah's already been there. That's the first time that box.
That I saw it, at least. And like I said, I thought it was weird that it wasn't hunched over on any side, considering the whole prop truck got moved.
Okay. And describe this box again to me, what it looked like?
It was the same white box. I think it just said dummies on it. I'm pretty sure.
Corporal, I just want to, is in this part of the interview, is Ms. Gutierrez insinuating to you that Sarah Zachary planted that box of ammunition? Is that your understanding?
Yes.
Did you ever find any evidence to support that?
No.
Just said dummies on the sticker, and it was a sticker and a label, not like handwritten or anything. But it wasn't the same font that I'm used to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously everybody has said, you know, no one ever suspected live rounds to be on the set.
Yeah.
That's a given. Live rounds aren't allowed.
Absolutely not. And especially when it hadn't been brought to set or anything like that, either.
Right. So the thing is, there are other live rounds that were found in other various places.
Really?
Not in that box.
Really? Where were they found?
I'll go through the pictures because I can't. There's like so many different areas, and I'm going to go over that with you guys, okay?
Yeah, that's news to me. Wow.
So they weren't all in that box.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
Do you have any speculation on that?
No.
Okay. Do you think anybody else manipulated that gun, Alec's gun?
I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure, and I don't really care to speculate on it either.
Well, I mean, there's really not a lot of time between you pulling it out.
Well, there was time, you know, in the morning before that even. Well, yeah, okay, yeah. I'm not sure. Yeah.
But in between the time that you had it, you checked the round.
Yeah.
And then
there's like 10, 15 minutes, yeah. I'm not sure if anyone else did. I wasn't in there.
Okay. And that's okay if you don't.
Yeah. Try to get that.
All right. Before we dive into these real quick. So this is an example, okay?
Okay.
Remember how I was asking you if they had any safety bulletins or anything that
Okay.
they put out? So these are ones pertaining to ammo, guns. Did you ever see anything like this, or was anything like this ever put out?
No.
And you can...
I definitely didn't see anything like this at all.
So they didn't put any protocols out for...
I don't believe so. If they did, it might have gotten lost in the email. Not really sure.
I'm going to check through those and see.
Okay.
But yeah, so safety bulletins, firearms, live ammo, okay?
Okay.
Kind of something that...
Yeah, I remember those.
No.
That's fairly standard on most productions.
Yeah, I didn't see those on my last one either, to be honest with you, or my last one. I think it's also an indie thing, maybe, you know? Even though this was, whatchamacallit. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
This is the box. Because I'm going to need these.
All right.
This is the box that was on top of the cart.
I don't remember that being the box that was on top of the cart.
This is the one that was...
Corporal, what photograph are you showing Ms. Gutierrez now?
So this photo was one that our crime scene technician had kind of put together of the box that Hannah had handed to Lieutenant Benavides on the day of the incident, saying that that was the box that she was using. So it's just different angles of that box of pictures that Marissa took.
And let me ask you, if you are you showing her what we currently have entered in evidence as State's Exhibit 63? Can you see that?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
handed that you guys had said that you had pulled from?
I thought it just said Dummies on it. Yeah, I don't remember this one being the one. I thought it was much cleaner than that.
Cleaner in what way?
Like, you know, just how this is kind of messed up right here. Like, these are all kind of dirty, and like the side right here is dirty. I thought it was pretty clean and new, the one that we were using.
Okay. Yeah, because this matches the photo that you showed me.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay.
And you guys found this on the cart, or?
Yeah, this is the one that was given to us that you guys had said that this is the box that you had pulled from. And this is the one that Sarah checked.
This is the one that Sarah checked. Okay, and she found multiple live ones in there. Just one?
Suspected. Until it goes to the lab, we can't confirm.
Okay. Yeah, she definitely said that there were multiple in there.
Yeah, this is it.
Okay. I don't know. I kind of think it's strange that these ones are missing out of here when I'm pretty sure like we had only really touched these first couple of rows there.
And then
What? This?
there's also a hole there.
Yeah. No. I think that's weird. I don't remember that.
Okay.
I don't know if maybe one was taken back to the truck or something.
What do you mean?
I don't know. I don't know if Sarah went back to the truck at all with anything.
Okay. But you didn't?
No, I didn't. I was there with Brian the whole time. Sarah, I don't know exactly. I think she might have went back to the truck.
So, these two were on the top of the cart.
Okay.
What are you showing her a photo of right now?
The 2 live rounds, well, suspected at the time, rounds that were on top of the cart.
And they were later confirmed to be live.
Yes.
Also suspected live ones.
Okay. Okay.
That was the one that came out of the gun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, I don't know if you noticed commonality between these, that we expect them to be live.
The silver? Okay. All right.
That didn't stick out to you when you loaded that gun?
No.
That the rest of them were not the same color?
No. What are we looking at here? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought that was messed up right there. I thought that was a different kind of loading gate. Okay, yeah.
Was this one pulled out after lunch?
I can't really tell if, is that it? I would have to see the bottom of it to really tell if this is Russ's gun or not. Other than that, the only other two, if this isn't Russ, they should have the 2 stars on them.
Okay, the Marshall one?
Yeah, the 2 Marshall ones should have been out there after lunch.
Okay.
So I'm not, is that the Russ gun?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can't really tell unless I see the bottom of it.
You said it had like markings on the bottom.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is your guys' prop truck, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Back of it?
Cool.
Okay. So there's 2 access points to this truck.
Yeah.
One is here on the side, it's on the passenger side,
Mm-hmm.
and then this back gate. Okay. This is how we found it.
Yeah.
Is that pretty common on how, obviously this is after the incident, so stuff is put away, but is this pretty common on how you guys stored that cart?
Yeah, we left it usually right there.
Okay. And that's safe?
Yeah.
So you're telling me, and, you know, I don't really know safe too much, but you tell me when you
Lock it.
pull this handle,
100%.
it locks itself. You don't have to, like, hit the pound key or, you know what I mean?
100%, you just lock it and it locks.
That's how my safe is too. You
Okay.
just do that,
Yeah,
And it,
every single time it locks like that. Yeah.
okay. And this is where you kept the guns.
Mhm.
So this is the cart, this is how we found the cart the day of the incident.
Okay. So, I'm not really seeing the box on the top of it.
Corporal, can you just explain to us what's going on right now?
So showing Hannah these various photos that our crime scene technician Marissa Popple had taken, I'm wanting her to identify the items that we've looked at just to confirm that you know, that that's what she was using, that that's the cart that she was using, that that's the truck that they were storing their items in. With regards to the truck, you know, explaining obviously that there's only 2 access points on that truck. The reason behind me showing her the picture of the inside was because it was pretty disorganized. So I wanted her to confirm if that is how they kept that truck. Another thing that we had noticed on the truck was that there was a firearm outside of that safe, even though they had claimed that they kept all the guns in the safe. And so that's why I'm having her essentially identify that those are the areas that they used.
Thank you.
So that's the thing, is that box was given
To us.
to us.
By who?
Sarah, I believe, but
Okay.
And going back to it, if Sarah gave them a box, are you convinced that's the box that you saw?
I don't remember that being the box.
that you were pulling from.
I don't recall that being the box that we were pulling from.
Okay.
It seems a little dingy, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay. But here's my thing is that, you know,
Yeah, there are suspected live rounds in this box.
which this matches what you showed me,
Yeah.
what you brought.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, those are the ones I brought. I'm not sure if Steph has any like that.
Okay.
But also, I mean, a box is a box. You can put different trays in different boxes, you know.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. So these two, I think one of these was the one used. I think this one was a potential suspected live.
Okay.
You know, just, I would say that's, I think, a blank that we had put there.
Okay.
But this is, I mean, how the top of this looked.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Were these already on it, or were these on actors?
These were on actors. That one was Swoon, and this one's Jensen.
So did they just drop them on the card after the incident?
They gave them back to Sarah.
Okay, and she put them there.
Yeah.
This belt was on that card. Also suspected live.
Okay.
These were the ones on the side. 2 out of the 3 of these are suspected live. And this is on the top of the cart. So it's not like from a different area. These are on the top of the cart.
Okay, yeah,
It's just
I
both of
understand.
them. This is Alec's belt.
Yeah.
Okay. Also a suspected live. One of
Okay.
these 2. One of them rattles, one of them doesn't.
Okay.
Now, I think you explained this to me earlier. I was
Yeah.
curious on what these horsey rounds were.
Yeah. What's up?
What are the horsey rounds?
Oh, the horsey rounds. Okay, yeah, I thought you were saying that there were live in those.
No, this box is empty.
Yeah,
but
no. So those are like the 8 loads like I was telling you about. That's
Okay.
the one box that
Like-
I contributed,
You
yeah.
can shoot around the horses or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
okay.
horsey rounds.
Yeah.
It's had a little horseshoe. Thought it was cute.
This is another box.
Okay.
With one suspected life.
Okay. Copy that. Yeah, I'm not really sure about this box, the writing on it. I've definitely seen it before, but yeah, I'm not sure what the writing is. Cause
That came from Seth.
Okay.
He said that he marks stuff like that.
Okay.
Just as a point of clarification, what photo are you showing Ms. Gutierrez at this point?
So I'm showing her, again, it's different views of that box and I think inside the box, photos that our crime scene tech had taken of the other box of 45 long Colt dummy rounds. That's how it was labeled on the box. The difference with this label is it was the one with white tape and it was handwriting in blue Sharpie, which was identified to come from Seth Kenny. And then in that box, we did have one round that did not shake, which we sent to the FBI to be tested, as we had suspected that it may have been live as well. And it turns out that that round was, in fact, a dummy.
Are you showing Ms. Gutierrez the box that we have a photo of entered into evidence as State's Exhibit 48?
Yes, that's it.
Is it your understanding that that is the box of dummy rounds that was provided by Seth Kenny?
Yes.
Is it your understanding that that is the only box of dummy rounds that was provided by Seth Kenny?
Yes.
Thank you.
At least for 45 long Colt.
I appreciate the distinction. Thank you.
It's definitely found some other things from Seth that weren't marked by Seth, but
Yeah, and he said he does different kind of ways.
things, yeah.
So, these are loose rounds found in one of your bags.
Okay.
Okay. Just different calibers. The thing that sticks out is that this.
Yeah, you always want to keep these on set. These are, basically you put those there in order to, like, if you have a gun scene, you know, and the person is reloading it, they would be, if they shot the gun off and everything, they would be dropping those out of the cylinder. And so I have a couple of bags.
Okay, so that's why you keep
Yeah, you
ones
bring,
that don't have.
yeah, you bring those so that way, you know, you can litter the ground with shells to make it look like people have been shooting there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, you definitely always need to have, like, at least a couple of bags of ones that have no thing on them, yeah.
What do you know about the manufacturer of what you guys received?
I'm not entirely sure. Are you saying, like, Joe Swanson? Because I don't know exactly where all these come from. Like I said, a lot of these came from Seth.
Do you know, okay, so brands, you know what a Winchester is. Everybody knows Winchester makes
Yeah.
live rounds.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of these was a Winchester round.
A Winchester, like, live round?
Well, it was one of these, I think this
Like
one
a
was a Winchester.
45? Like
It's
a
not-
4440?
It's not live, obviously,
Okay.
but at one point it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not saying for this set particularly, but Winchester doesn't make those help. These, the manufacturer of these is Starling Brass.
Okay.
Okay, and this is just from doing research and what I have found out.
Corporal, what are you showing her now, just so that we can follow along?
So the one picture is just a bunch of casings, but what I'm trying to show her is the different head stamps and how you could essentially tell the difference in the manufacturers on the head stamps.
And what are you comparing? Starline Brass and...
Just any of the other ones that we had found.
And are you showing photos of dummy rounds with different head stamps?
I believe the dummy rounds, and then also that last picture that I was showing her were just the casings themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So you can tell because it has a little star,
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
an arc, and then a star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all these have different manufacturers. That's how you can tell where these come from.
Okay.
Some of them have nothing.
Yeah, I've
Some
seen
of them,
like I said, they all kind of vary a little bit.
right.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, the star, arc and the star, yeah.
And that's the one that was discharged?
Yeah.
so here's my thing with this company is this company doesn't produce live ammo.
So, what the fuck? That's insane.
Wow.
So how did that that must have, is that one of those primer cap things I was talking about? Those older ones that like the primer cap's still alive? I don't know how that happened then.
So this company, and you said it's a Stalin cap?
Starline.
Starline.
Starline Brass is the
Starline
company.
brass.
Okay.
Yeah,
And they don't produce live rounds. So somebody's got to...
So these are used for movie sets
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they are.
totally. But this was from the
Corporal, I'm going to interrupt real quick. Can you kind of describe for us what your impression was on November 9th about Starline Brass and reloads versus small manufacturers and whether or not you learned information after that?
Yeah, so at the time of this interview and various other interviews I had done along with my own research into Starline Brass, I had discovered that they don't make their own live ammunition, that they are an ammunition component company. So they would have sold essentially the casing, that brass part. So at the time of this interview, my understanding in doing this was that it potentially was just reloaded rounds. And so somebody, bought the components and then made the ammunition themselves. And later on, I had actually discovered that there could potentially be maybe manufacturers elsewhere that use these components to make their own ammunition. Interestingly, one day during an interview but a meeting with the DA's office, I was looking at my own ammunition and it had the same head stamp for duty.
Thank you.
top of the cart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This was around that.
Good time.
That should have been the one that I took out and gave to Sarah. That should be it.
Right.
So, what are you saying for that? Somehow that one that should have never been able to fire was able to fire?
Made it into a live round, or just,
Are you
That's
serious?
speculation.
Oh my God.
because if they don't make live rounds, somebody had to convert it, or it was a dummy that just went haywire, I guess. Which more likely, somebody converted that to a live round.
Take a deep breath.
That's just,
Like I said, I want to be honest with you guys about
I appreciate it a lot. I
about
appreciate that a lot.
where we're at and what we've found.
okay. Yeah, those are mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ones that you keep for.
Mhm.
Got it. And this is what I'm saying. So there's a bunch of random,
Dummies that fly out of places and that are left places.
Well, what's weird to me is all the different brands.
Right.
Yeah, they're all kind of a little different, like I told you. It's so
So
weird.
this is like a BHA. This is a S&B.
Ugh.
The rest of these are Starline.
Starline.
Yeah.
So,
I mostly have noticed the Starline ones. Yeah, I try to use those because
where those came from? The Starline?
I have no idea. I mean, I've seen them a lot before. I
That's
had
the
some on
norm.
my last
Oh,
set.
that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
norm.
Oh my
It's the
God.
normal of what is supplied.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to go through those again.
Did they do gun residue did they find powder residue in that Starline one?
It takes a while for
Okay, yeah. Do you guys have an idea of how long, like, the labs are going to take?
They actually take a while.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
That's why we utilize that.
Are we talking like months or like?
Actually, they use the quickest way to do it. At the state level, it'll take 2 years, but the
Are
FBI
you
doesn't.
fucking kidding me?
The FBI doesn't do that. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that's why I brought the FBI in.
Oh my God, 2 years?
No, but not for the FBI.
Oh, okay. I was like, I can't fucking do this for 2 years, guys. Oh my God.
That's why I didn't utilize our.
No, totally. Thank God. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, honestly, depending on how many suspected lives are in here, considering with what Sarah told me, I would kind of consider that there's another box.
This is it for.
Well, just because she told me that more than half of the box, she shook and was live.
Yeah, we've
So-
processed.
So, where did those go?
I don't.
I mean,
When you're doing things in a state of after a traumatic situation,
Totally.
what you perceive could not be what is. Okay, so we have the spent casing from Alec's gun.
Okay.
We have the one that was in that box,
yeah.
which we were told that that this was the box that you were pulling from.
Yeah.
Okay. We have the two on the top of the cart.
Yeah.
Just the
So
ones
those
that
might
were.
have been from the box.
Do you think she was doing them and then throwing them out on the
No.
cart? And she was checking.
Maybe. I don't know. I wasn't there.
One in the bandolier on the top of the cart,
Right.
and one in Alec's bandolier, and then the one that's unsure that was in that blue Sharpie box.
And they, looks like they're all Starline. Yeah. They're all that time. Wow. That's crazy.
So my thing is, these boxes, obviously, you can just, even though these are dummy rounds,
Yeah.
a majority of them, obviously, you
Yeah.
can see that they are different kinds of dummy rounds.
Totally.
So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why would there be mixed boxes of this stuff?
So usually, the only thing that I try to keep consistent is if there's no primer caps or if there's primer caps. And so most of the time, just try to keep the primer caps, the ones without primer caps together, so that way I know where they are.
Okay. And then, this box, why would there be live ammo on the set?
I have no idea. At this point, it's kind of seeming like somehow these were mixed in.
Okay. Did you ever do gun practice on this set?
Never. Not once.
Never took the guns out for target practice, anything of the sort?
No, and I think there would be, videos, pictures of that or anything. Everyone would be pretty stoked if we were going shooting on set.
Okay.
Even
So
on the weekends, there would at least be something.
you wouldn't suspect anyone to tell me that you were out there?
I don't know why people would say that.
Okay.
Because 100% I was not, and I guarantee you people would probably have pictures and be stoked about it.
Okay. Is there any reason that you can think of that your DNA or prints would come back on these?
Maybe picking them up, maybe moving them around. maybe not necessarily putting them in things, maybe not checking them because I'm not putting them in things.
Okay.
And, you know, I did open the box as well. So, yeah, I opened it.
Okay.
I'm not sure, I still don't really remember this being the box, but, yeah. I'm pretty sure, I thought it just said dummies written on it. Did you find any box that just said, like, dummies on it?
So many boxes that...
I'm just saying, like, you know, if there was a box...
I'll look further into it. And,
yeah, I'm just saying, if there was a box that, like, just had dummies straight across on it, you can switch boxes around, you know? I don't really know. Yeah, and for... This was all found on the cart, or was in the truck? Or?
Yeah, these were on the cart.
Yeah.
On the top of the cart. I mean, this is one on top of the cart. Where did that shotgun go after?
Shotgun?
Yeah.
That should have been there.
Where?
That should have been probably on the bottom of the cart.
Okay. After the incident?
Yeah, unless Sarah moved it.
What about those two other guns?
Those should have been on the cart. Like I said, given to Sarah. I'm not sure if she put the guns away or something, just out of, like, you know, wanting to keep them locked up. Because, yeah, I definitely didn't put anything away, and I was with Brian the whole time, kind of freaking out. Right on the side.
And you didn't see where Sarah went? I mean, that's a long way to run with guns.
No, I didn't.
Corporal, did Ms. Gutierrez indicate to you that she did see Ms. Zachary take some items and return them to the truck?
Yeah, so earlier in this interview, she does make a statement that she saw Sarah collecting the guns.
And did she indicate that she was taking them back to the truck? Do you recall?
I don't recall.
Okay, thank you.
See where she went, and she was gone for like 10-15 minutes before you guys shut up.
Yeah, so that's where we're at.
Okay.
Every single one of those suspected lives is Sterling Brass.
Okay.
That's fucking crazy.
That's crazy.
That's, like, literally insane.
Do you guys have any questions?
No.
Yeah,
I'd like to. Do you have any questions? Or finished?
No, not really.
Okay.
You can always call me.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. That's like fucking, I don't even know how you would do that.
Okay, well, let's, you want to get going?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Corporal, I'm going to show you what has been entered into evidence as State's Exhibit 57 and for counsel, just so I don't have to connect and disconnect. We'll do it the easy way. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
What are those?
Those are rounds that we had collected from Rust.
Are these rounds or casings?
Casings.
Okay. And at any point in time, and let's be clear, these casings in State's Exhibit 57, why are they noteworthy?
Because they contain the same head stamp and then same color primer as the live rounds on rust.
And when you say that they're casings, they're spent casings, correct?
Yes.
So they're not dummies and they're not live rounds, they're just spent casings.
Yes.
And at any point in time were those spent casings sent to the FBI for fingerprint testing?
Yes, they were.
Who requested that?
You did.
And what were the results?
They had no yield on them.
Okay. Predictably, right?
Correct.
Okay. I want to go back just briefly to, you remember Mr. Benavidez's body-worn camera footage?
Yes, I reviewed it quite a few times.
And do you remember Mr. Benavidez being asked some questions by defense counsel about why the prop truck was not enclosed in the crime scene tape?
Yes, I remember the questions.
And did Mr. Bowles point out a truck on the video?
Yes.
Have you been to this movie set?
I have.
And where was the prop truck located?
So the prop truck was actually at what would have been the northern end of the town. If you recall in my video, I took Ms. Gutierrez to the bathrooms, and that prop truck was actually even further from that.
So the truck that was outside the crime scene tape in Mr. Benavidez's video, based on your investigation, was that the prop truck?
No, it wasn't. In Hannah's interview, she actually said that the prop truck was at that other end of the movie town, and she specifically said, where you walked me to the bathrooms, it's further than that.
All right. Ms. Gutierrez indicated to you that she brought 2 boxes of dummies onto the set, correct?
Correct.
How many boxes of dummies from Ms. Gutierrez do you have in evidence?
We found 1.
Do you know what happened to the other one?
No.
And for completeness, did you ever find any evidence that Ms. Gutierrez was engaging in any kind of target practice or plinking, anything like that?
No.
Did you ever find any evidence that Mr. Kenny was the source of the live rounds on set?
No.
Did you ever discover any evidence that Sarah Zachary was the source of the live rounds on set?
No.
Did you ever discover any evidence that Hannah Gutierrez was the person who brought the live rounds on set?
I guess it'd be circumstantial.
What circumstantial evidence are you referring to?
So in her interview, I mean, there's a lot of things. So, that box she identified in her interview, and I asked her to show me what a box of hers would look like. She identified one on her phone. That picture on her phone matched exactly that box that we had. She was the one that handed that box to Lieutenant Benavidez, stating that that was the box that she was pulling from, along with, the various bandoliers that we collected with that live ammunition. She identified as bringing from her previous set that she worked on. And the other box of dummies, it didn't match the box that she had brought. It was identified as one brought by Seth Kenny. The rounds inside that box did not, even just the dummies themselves didn't match in the way they looked. So all of this in totality is what we used in our investigation.
Did you ever discover any evidence as to who loaded the live round in the gun?
In Hannah's interview, she told me that she was the one that loaded Alec's gun.
All right. I'll pass the witness, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Corporal.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bowles.
So, in your direct testimony, do I understand that you said you did not do the prop truck warrant until the 27th because, and I'm still going, because you did not have information from Ms. Gutierrez Reed about the prop truck?
If that's the statement that I made.
Okay, so you stated under oath just a little bit ago that the delay in the prop truck search warrant from the 21st to the 27th was because you didn't have information about the prop truck from Ms. Gutierrez Reed, correct?
So I wasn't even the case agent at that time.
Okay, that wasn't my question. My question was, you just stated earlier in your testimony that you didn't have information about the prop truck from Ms. Gutierrez Reed, correct?
Maybe if that's what I said.
Okay. Then I want to show you what I'm going to mark for identification as defendants O. And may I approach, Your Honor? Corporal, I'm going to show you what is marked as defendants O and ask you if you could review that and see if you identify it.
So your highlighted portion?
Just the document itself.
Okay.
Do you know what that is?
Yes.
What is that?
So this is the search warrant that I wrote on October 27th to search the prop truck.
Your Honor, I'd move admission of defendants O.
I will have an obvious objection to pages and pages of inadmissible hearsay. Would you like to approach? Or?
Yes.
So, Corporal, do you recall that you were the affiant for a search warrant for that prop truck?
Yes.
And when I say affiant, I mean that you swore under oath to the judge to get this search warrant that these statements you made were true, correct?
Yes.
Now, do you recall making a statement to this judge to get a search warrant for the prop truck that, due to the information received from Hannah, affiant would like approval of a search warrant for the prop truck on scene due to the statement received about firearms and ammunition being stored in the truck? Do you remember making that statement?
Yes.
Okay. Do you also remember making the statement to the judge that after conducting an interview with Hannah Gutierrez Reed, she advised on the day of the incident that the crew broke for lunch, firearms were taken back and secured inside a safe on a prop truck? Recall making that statement?
Yes.
So, this statement under oath, don't you agree with me that it conflicts with your statement you just made under oath in testimony?
In what way?
You told this jury earlier that you did not have information from Ms. Gutierrez Reed about the prop truck. That's why there was a delay in doing this search warrant. But in fact, you told the judge you did have information from Ms. Gutierrez Reed, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
So, you're asking this jury to believe you today. Which of these statements were true? This statement or the one you told them just earlier in court?
I guess I did get a statement from her that stuff was stored on the prop truck.
Okay, will you agree with me then that the testimony you just gave under oath a little while ago was not true?
I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly what I said.
Okay. You also stated that you also made a statement that Ms. Gutierrez Reed had unloaded that firearm, the Baldwin revolver, over the prop cart. You recall that statement?
Yes.
And in fact, you made that statement numerous times, as I recall. Do you recall making it at least once?
Yes, because that's what she had said in her first interview.
Can you point out to me, and I'm all ears if you can, because I didn't hear it, can you point out the timestamp where she said that about loading it over the prop cart?
I don't have the timestamp.
Okay. Do you recall Ms. Gutierrez Reed's exact words in that first interview about unloading that gun?
Verbatim, no.
Okay. If I played you a clip, would it refresh your memory?
Yes.
Okay. Judge, do you want me to turn this
Is
down?
anybody going to look at what it's showing her?
Well, I'm happy to look at what he's showing. I'm sorry, I'm happy to look at what he's showing, but I also think probably the better and more complete way of handling this is to review the transcript, and I think we have numerous copies of that. So, I mean, I'm not going to tell Mr. Bowles how to do his job, so show me what you're going to show her.
Well, I'm refreshing recollection.
I know, but
Sure,
show
and
us.
you show me what you're going to refresh with.
This is a clip, and so if you want to play the actual video that was entered, we can do that too.
Well, you have it. She's your witness now. You do what you want to do.
Okay, if you don't want to help us out, is that what you're saying? You don't want to play it?
Mr. Bowles,
Yeah,
you
okay.
have it. You have computers. She's your witness.
Okay, then I'll play. Your Honor, Chad's better at operating.
refresh her memory.
I still don't know what he's going to play.
Okay, all right.
Wait a
I
second.
have no idea what he's
Showing
doing.
her.
Yeah, I'm just
Wait,
gonna play
you're
her
not
clip.
listening to me. What are you showing her?
I'm playing her a clip of that video that was entered into evidence.
Which one, the first
The
one?
first one?
So I
The
think
first clip,
I think
which
this,
took 50 minutes?
But it's just a short clip. It's like 20 seconds.
so he needs to show it to me. Can we just step in the
Yeah.
right outside?
And then you don't want the
the courtroom
jury
and
to
he can show
hear it again because you're refreshing her memory, not
It's already- Judge, it's entered into evidence. They
That's
can
not,
hear
that's not true. You're refreshing her memory.
it. No, but I could play it as if it's in evidence already.
Then
So
play the exhibit.
they've heard it. Your Honor, may we approach for a moment just
Yes.
to clarify this? Okay, Corporal, while we were kind of dealing with that, I want to come back to that question on the prop cart loading. And again, because Miss Gutierrez Reed did not say that in the interview we just heard. She said she went outside with Dave Halls and unloaded the revolver. She didn't mention anything about a prop cart. You agree with me on that?
I do not, because I do remember her saying something about doing it over a prop cart.
Which interview, the first or second we heard?
I believe it was the first, and then the second is where she mentioned that she was in two separate places.
Okay, and so we're going to try to find that on the first, and if you can find it when we come back and redirect them, I want to hear it. So if you find that timestamp. Now, you also said that you did not meet Seth Kenny until October 27th, until the search of the prop truck, correct?
I believe that was the first time that I had met him in person.
Okay, well, you said the word, your first interaction with Seth Kenny was October 27th for the search of the prop truck. Do you recall that?
No, I said the first time in person.
Okay. And in fact, you had a prior telephone call with him, correct?
Yes.
And that was on the day of the shooting.
I think I actually had probably a couple phone calls with him before.
On that day, on the 21st?
Just in between, in between the day of the incident and then to the search of the prop truck.
Okay, and we're going to talk about the day of the incident, the call that you all made to Troy Teskey. Do you recall that?
On the day of the incident?
Yes.
I don't recall a phone call on the day of the incident to him.
Not that afternoon around 4 p.m.?
To a Troy?
Troy Teskey?
No.
Okay.
I don't recall. I'm sorry.
Okay. And you also said that Miss Gutierrez Reed said she saw Sarah collecting guns. Recall that?
Yes.
And again, I'd like to see if you could point that out, where that is in the interview, because didn't she say instead that Sarah took stuff from the prop cart and she may have took a gun she never saw? She said she saw her.
I think the phrase that she used was that she saw Sarah collect the guns. And then later on in that interview, she kind of changed her answer.
Okay, and the jury will be able to hear that too, but I'd like to know where that is on the, if you know.
I can't point timestamps out to you, Mr. Bowles.
Okay. Now, you are the case agent in this case, correct?
I was not at first, but a couple weeks in, yes, I was.
And so for 2 years, you've been the case agent, correct?
Yes.
Now, if you can tell the jury, that means that you are basically the lead agent on the case, is that right?
Yes.
And you collect all the information, you do all the investigation, you read all the reports, is that right?
A majority of it, yes. And then because this case was rather large, I had assistance from other detectives and the district attorney's office.
So as part of that, you collect various sources and maybe people are helping you, but you're ultimately the ultimate person with all the information in the case. Is that right?
With what's pertinent, I would say so, yes.
Okay.
But considering how many people were involved and how dynamic and everything this case was, it is kind of not essentially feasible for me to know every single piece of information. That's why people helped.
Sure. And let's start with the first interview and the day of the shooting. Now, you recall from your direct and from the videos we saw that you actually walked Miss Gutierrez Reed to the bathroom?
Yes.
And you were walking her to the bathroom from when she had been detained in Mr. Benavides' car, correct?
Incorrect, because she was not detained at that point.
Okay, well, legality, a legal word, but she was sitting in Mr. Benavides' car, correct?
Yes.
Now, while she was sitting in Mr. Benavides' car, you knew as case agent what had happened that day was Mr. Baldwin had been allowed to walk around and talk to people.
I do not know anything that had happened with him or where he was prior.
Well, do you know, as we sit here today, the case agent, having reviewed the pictures of Mr. Baldwin on the cell phone, are you telling the jury you don't know he was out talking to people?
Well, I'd say he was out, but at the time that I was there, no.
I'm talking about your knowledge today. Do you know today that Mr. Baldwin was not put in a police car like Miss Gutierrez Reed?
That's correct.
Okay. And you know today that Mr. Baldwin, there's a picture of him on his cell phone talking to somebody on the day of the shooting?
Yes.
Okay. And you know that there is a video of him talking with David Halls and some other people on a truck area.
I'm sorry, you said a video with him talking with...
To David Halls?
I don't know of that video.
Okay. In any event, she's in Mr. Benavides' car, and you're walking Miss Gutierrez Reed to the bathroom.
Yes, sir.
And, ma'am, we saw that you went inside the bathroom with Miss Gutierrez Reed, correct?
That is correct.
And one of the reasons you did that was you said that you felt like she might harm herself.
No, I didn't say that I felt like she was going to. It's just typical for us, especially because she had requested me to go with her. You know, at the end of the day, my concern is, on that day, my concern is her well-being. She was obviously very distraught at that time. I wanted to make sure that she wasn't going to have some sort of medical episode or something happen in the bathroom where I would have to step in at that point.
Did she actually ask you to come in the bathroom with her?
No.
Okay. But she went ahead and went in.
Yes, and I turned the opposite direction from her to give her privacy.
And would you agree with me that she'd never met you, that'd be fairly intrusive to go inside the actual bathroom with her?
That would be a question for Ms. Gutierrez.
Okay. Now, you felt like you were wanting to make sure she didn't hurt herself, including in the bathroom. And so you must have felt like she was very distraught.
Yes, I do feel like she was distraught that day.
And you also heard her say, did you not, that this was the worst day of her life? She didn't want to live, words to that effect?
I don't recall hearing her saying anything that she didn't want to live.
Or she said, my life is over. Sorry, I misremembered that.
And I will object. I believe that's absolutely a misstatement of what she said on the video, and if Mr. Bowles needs to review the video, I can pull it up.
Do you recall what she said?
Verbatim, no, but something to that extent.
Okay. So after knowing that, you all take her back to the station, and we see yourself and Talamonte sitting around a table, correct?
Yes.
And Miss Gutierrez Reed is then in the corner on the opposite end of that table, correct?
Yes.
Now, do you remember she mentioned at the start that something about maybe she should talk to a lawyer?
Yes.
And you all told her that, or not you, but do you remember hearing Talamonte tell her that it might be a public defender and it might take all night?
Yes, something to that extent.
Okay, so would that that statement was made to her with her asking how long a lawyer would take to get, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. And then do you recall hearing that you all told her it was just going to be a few basic questions?
I did not make that statement, no, but I believe Hannah's response was that she was willing to answer a few basic questions.
Okay, and with that, she signed her Miranda waiver.
Yes.
A waiver of her Miranda rights, is that right?
Yes.
So you felt it was okay for her to do that, even in the distraught state that she was in, whereby you thought she might even hurt herself? Possibly.
I don't believe I said anything about her wanting to hurt herself. Just that obviously we take care of the well-being of people.
Okay.
And then, I'm sorry, what was the other part of the question?
No, that's it. You answered it. Now, during this first interview, you did not tell Ms. Gutierrez Reed that Halyna had passed, did you?
No, I didn't even know that Miss Hutchins had passed away until essentially right before I told Mr. Baldwin.
Okay. So you didn't know at that time either?
I did not know.
Okay. Now, during the course of that interview, I think you stated actually at the end of the second interview that when people have undergone a traumatic event, sometimes they can say unusual thing. I can't remember the exact words you used.
Yeah, something about their perception or recollection after something like that could be, I guess, misinterpreted in a way.
Okay, and you've seen that in the course of your career as an officer, that after somebody undergoes a traumatic event, sometimes their memory is affected?
Yes, and that's why we conduct additional interviews.
Okay. So it's a fact you would agree with that she had just witnessed a very traumatic, she had been through a very traumatic situation.
Right, she didn't witness it because she wasn't
it.
inside the church.
Right. So she was not inside the church. That's what you concluded based on your investigation?
And her statements.
Okay. And you were able to corroborate that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, knowing that, the statement she gave, again, those could have been impacted in some ways by her being a part of a traumatic situation.
Theoretically.
Now, would you also agree with me that you asked different questions in the second interview than the first interview?
Yes, I asked a lot of questions in the second interview.
Yeah, it was a lot more comprehensive, correct?
That is correct.
Now, you also know that when you take an interview of somebody, that you can use that in court against them, correct?
Their interview?
Yes.
Yes.
So while you were doing that, while you were questioning her, and you all were talking to her and looked like kind of being friendly with her, you knew that you could later use that one day in court.
Yes.
Okay. And again, I mean, did she appear during that first right before that first interview? She was in a very distraught state.
I would say that when...
I'm just going to object to asked and answered. She's already testified to it.
That's fine. She has already said that. Okay. Now, in the first interview, Ms. Gutierrez Reed told you there were 3 sources of ammunition, correct?
In the first interview?
Yes.
Not correct.
Okay. What did she tell you in the first interview?
That they came from Seth Kenny.
Okay. And then she later tells you, a second interview, it's Seth Kenny, Billy Ray, and herself, right?
I don't know if I don't remember if she identified Billy Ray, but she did list additional sources.
Okay. And she also told you that Seth Kenny had given her ammunition for the prior movie set that she was on, The Old Way?
I don't recall her specifically saying that Seth Kenny provided that.
And again, you don't remember from the first interview a statement that she got ammunition from Seth Kenny?
I just said that she did say that she got it from Seth Kenny.
Okay. Did you try to corroborate that to pull invoices to show that Seth Kinney had brought ammunition from the to the Old Way set?
Not to the Old Way.
Okay. Now, there was talk about the idea of sabotage, and you mentioned that this came to your attention as part of this investigation, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall seeing in that first interview that Officer Talamonte brings up the idea to Miss Gutierrez Reed that the camera crew walking off, does she think one of them might have done something?
She, Detective Talamonte, did present the idea to Miss Gutierrez about the camera crew, and Miss Gutierrez's response was no, that she didn't think it was them, and that she wouldn't want to think that way of anyone.
And so that was on October 21st. So the first mention that you're aware of the possibility of sabotage was your fellow detective, Miss Talamonte, correct?
That I would say is incorrect.
Well, where did you hear it before that?
Before?
The 21st, before Detective Talamonte says that. Who said it before that?
That was a theory that we threw out to try to get answers, not a theory from someone that was on set.
Oh, so when you say we threw out a theory, what do you mean?
The sheriff's office.
So the sheriff's office created a theory?
No, again, we were trying to get answers to questions that we had as to how or why something like this would potentially happen.
So was this a ruse? You're trying to trick people? Is that what you're talking about? You created a theory? What is that what the intent was?
No.
Okay, well then did you believe this theory?
Believe the theory about the camera crew?
The sabotage that you threw out, that the sheriffs put out. Did you believe there was some truth to that?
No.
Okay, so you put out a false theory.
And I'm going to object. She didn't put out a false theory. She didn't say it in the interview. It simply wasn't her.
Okay, well then Talamonte put out a false theory.
Again, it's an interview, so we can discuss things, bring up things to, again, try to get questions answered and figure out how to or where to go with our investigation.
Okay, and trying to get answers from people through a false idea. Did you ever actually investigate the camera crew? Did you interview any of them?
I did not interview them, no.
Did anybody in your team interview any of them?
I believe Detective Joel Cano did.
How many of them did he interview?
That would be a question for Detective Joel Cano.
Okay, and you as the case agent don't know that?
No.
And you don't know what the result of those interviews are?
I would have to read his reports.
And also on that idea, you brought up the idea of Starline Brass in the second interview, and that these were appeared to be reloads because Starline Brass doesn't make live ammunition. Do you recall that part of the interview?
Yes.
Now you heard the special prosecutor's expert, Mr. Haig. He talked about those rounds appearing more to be reloads, the live rounds. Did you hear that testimony?
Yes, I did.
And do you agree with him that those appear to be reloads?
Well, and obviously I have to object. It's so far outside the scope of what she could testify to. She's not an expert in ammunition. That's why we called Mr. Haig.
And, okay, I'll ask you another question. Do you have any reason to doubt Mr. Haig that he's correct?
Objection,
That's his-
relevance?
Well,
I'll overrule. Go ahead.
based on your investigation as a case agent and everything that you reviewed in this case, do you have any information to dispute your own expert, Mr. Haig?
No.
So if those are reloads, and you know what JS means, Joe Swanson, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you had known from talking to Thel Reed that Thel Reed had delivered live ammunition to Seth Kinney on the set of 1883, correct?
From his statement, yes.
Yes, and you knew that you had talked to Troy Teskey and that he had first been holding these and giving them to Thel Reed, correct?
Correct.
Now, did you investigate the idea further, given that these were reloads, to try to figure out the source of the reloads?
No, because really what's important to law enforcement were the circumstances of what occurred that day and the facts and the evidence of what occurred during the incident.
Okay, well then, Ms. Morrissey asked you earlier if you had any information as to Seth Kenny bringing live rounds on set, but what you just said is you were more focused on the events of the day. Is that correct?
That was our main focus, yes.
So is it fair to say, would you agree with me, that you didn't fully investigate the circumstances of these reloads?
I would say that we investigated it.
But you did not fully investigate it because you were more focused on the events of the actual day. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you also talked about earlier that it was kind of a circumstantial theory about Ms. Gutierrez Reed, but you have no direct evidence that you can tell the jury today that she brought live rounds to set.
That's correct.
Okay. I remember you had told me at one point that when you interviewed Sarah Zachary, she gave conflicting information. Is that true?
I don't recall my conversation with you. I can say that I did not conduct Sarah's initial interview, but I know it was fairly short, and I did a more in-depth one with her later.
Did you find in the course of those interviews, the one you did, her statements to be conflicting?
I believe that they were.
Okay. In the course of your investigation, did you also conclude that Seth Kenny had wanted Ms. Gutierrez Reed fired?
I would disagree with him wanting her fired. I believe the conversation that I had seen was that Sarah had the ability to fire her because essentially she wasn't pulling her weight.
Well, did you ever corroborate and try to investigate that with the statements of Troy Teskey and Sarah Zachary?
Corroborate.
I'm sorry, I'm just confused about the question, if you could.
Okay, sure, I'll reword it. Did you interview or talk to both Sarah Zachary and Troy Teskey, and did they give you information about whether Seth Kenny wanted her fired?
I don't recall.
Okay. Now, you would agree with me, would you not, that Ms. Gutierrez Reed was cooperative with you in terms of sitting down for interviews?
Yes.
And she was also cooperative in providing her phone?
Yes.
Okay. So you didn't have to do a search warrant for that?
No, I didn't have to on anyone's, essentially, besides Alec Baldwin's.
Okay. Yeah. Alec Baldwin had to have a search warrant, had to go through New York, and that whole process, is that what happened?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, as part of your investigation, you concluded not only that Hannah was not in the church at the time, but that she had handed the weapon to Mr. Halls?
Yes.
And did you also conclude that Mr. Halls had handed that to Mr. Baldwin?
Yes, and I just want to specify this is before the incident.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I should have given you a time frame.
Thank
so,
you.
yes, you're right. That's right after lunch and right before the shooting is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And so in that time frame, did you conclude based on all your investigation?
So by statements, that is what I concluded. However, there were opposing statements at the beginning of the investigation.
Okay, there were conflicting statements at the beginning?
Yes.
Did you determine that those were not correct, those conflicting statements?
They were...
I guess I'm going to object because I don't know specifically what statement he's referring to.
Oh, sure, I'll ask you. Okay,
Is this
I'll ask the
okay?
witness. Yes, Your Honor. Corporal, what statements were conflicting with that idea?
So on the day of the incident, I did interview Mr. Baldwin, and in his interview, he initially had stated that Hannah handed him the gun, However, later he changed that statement and said that Dave Halls had been the one that handed him the gun.
And I just would ask the court for some kind of an instruction or guidance with regard to this. Sounds like hearsay. So if it's not being offered for that, then can we kind of iron that out?
Sure, and counsel asked to know those statements, but
Counsel what?
asked to know what those statements
Well,
were.
that doesn't mean that she opened the door for hearsay.
No, and I understand, Your Honor, and I'm just, based on her knowledge of these, the effect on her and what she did investigation-wise. So,
Well, all right, ask it that way.
yes. So, and I'm not trying to get into the core of the statements unless people want to hear it. But I do want to ask you what certain things had impact on you and your investigation. So that's why I asked that. How did you reconcile, and when you got those conflicting statements, what did you do to make your ultimate conclusion? Did you review additional information, talk to more people? What did you do?
Yeah, so that was, essentially the purpose of re-interviewing and gathering people's statements.
Okay. Did you also learn and conclude that Miss Gutierrez Reed, when she handed Halls the weapon, had shown him the rounds?
Her statement was that she showed him what was in the cylinder, not that she took the rounds out.
Okay, and you also heard her say that before she put in the last round, that she had shaken it in her statement. Do you remember hearing that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you, as part of your investigation, you also were aware that numerous people had access to that prop truck?
Yes.
And that was because in the day it was not secured?
I wasn't on set, so I can't
Okay.
call that, but
But
that
did
was
you-
my understanding.
That's what your understanding was.
Yes.
And did you learn in the course of your investigation, your understanding, that it took props a while to get a prop cart, to use for their weapons?
I believe it took a few days for them.
Okay. Were you aware whether Miss Gutierrez Reed had to pull a wagon before that?
No.
Okay. You never heard that she had a wagon?
No.
Objection asked and answered.
Okay.
Sustained.
You knew as part of your investigation that Miss Gutierrez Reed was performing 2 jobs and had to support props, correct?
That's correct.
And she also made statements that she had requested additional training with Gabrielle Pickle. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. Did you also, in the course of your investigation, conclude that there was a lot of rushing on the set?
From statements provided to me, yes.
Did you also learn that whether safety meetings had occurred every day on set?
From the interviews that I conducted, it seemed pretty apparent that they were not conducted every day.
Okay. Was it also apparent to you that the safety bulletins, like for the industry, were not attached to the call sheets?
That's correct.
Did you ever find any inventory procedure or anything that Rust Productions had put together for the ammunition that was coming in?
No.
Did you find any inventory procedure in the call sheets or otherwise in production regarding the firearms?
No.
There was a gun safe on the prop truck, correct?
That's correct.
And was that that safe, who had access to that safe?
It would have been Miss Gutierrez and Sarah Zachary, and it was a little unclear about Nicole.
Okay, and Nicole, again, for the jury, she was the props assistant?
Yes.
Okay. At or before the search of the prop truck that we talked about earlier, did Seth Kenny obtain the code to that safe?
Yes,
Because he was the one that let you all in on the 27th into the prop truck, correct?
that's correct.
Okay. In the course of your
Well,
investigation...
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm going to back up. He did not, did you say the prop truck or the safe?
The safe, I'm sorry. I misspoke. It was
Okay.
the safe I meant.
Yeah, he did not let us into the prop truck, but he did let us into the safe.
Okay. And prior to that search on the 27th, between the time of the incident on the 21st and then the 27th, there was at least a few days in there where that prop truck was not secure, correct?
I wasn't on scene, so I cannot say definitively.
Well, do you know as case agent that sheriffs were stationed there the entire time?
They were not stationed there the whole time, but I know they were there at least for a couple days before I obtained the search warrant.
Okay, so at least from your knowledge as case agent, law enforcement was not present at that prop truck for at least a couple of days.
Yes, correct.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the search of the prop truck on the date of 27th and then the search of PDQ props. What date did that occur on, the search of PDQ props?
November 30th,
Okay.
2021.
So November 30th, 2021, that was approximately a month and 10 days after the incident, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and I might be off a day if I am as close. It's about a month and 10 days, right?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Now, during that time frame, from reviewing phone records, did you have a call with Seth Kenny on October 25th that lasted about 20 minutes?
I probably.
Do you recall that call, which would have been 2 days before the search of the prop truck?
I don't.
Between the time of the search of PDQ props and the shooting incident, that month and 10 days, you remember how many calls you had with Seth Kenny?
No, there were a bit.
There was a lot, wasn't there? He would call you quite a bit?
Yes.
And isn't it true that he would try to give you information and try to steer you in certain ways?
I don't believe he was trying to steer me in any way. I think that he was trying to be helpful in locating the source of the live ammunition.
Didn't he push this onto Miss Gutierrez Reed?
Push.
Didn't he indicate that Miss Gutierrez Reed must be the source of the live ammunition?
He probably, he may have said something to that extent.
And in fact, haven't you seen messages in the course of your investigation where he's trying to implicate Miss Gutierrez Reed?
Are you referring to text messages
Yes.
in between them two?
Between them two, between Sarah Zachary, regarding the leathers from Oldway? Didn't you remember seeing those?
Yeah, there were text messages about that.
Okay. So you would agree with me, would you not, that Seth Kenny is calling you a lot. He's trying to implicate Miss Gutierrez Reed, whether that's by providing information, what he's doing. But that's what he's doing, isn't he?
I can't make that assumption.
Miss Zachary worked for Seth Kenny, PDQ Props?
Yes, I believe she was licensed under them.
And you know that right after the shooting, Miss Zachary and Mr. Kenny had text and a phone call, correct?
Yes.
And you remember that there was words to the effect that there had been a shooting?
I believe the text message said emergency.
Emergency. Do you know what they discussed?
Hang on, we're back to hearsay, and so I want to make a hearsay objection. I can't figure out what the exception would be to this.
And again, Your Honor, I'll word it in terms of her course of her investigation and the effect. And it's not for the truth. I'm just trying to find out.
Well, let's see let's see if it meets effect on listener. I haven't heard that yet.
I guess my concern is that what's going to happen here is Mr. Bowles is just going to get a bunch of hearsay out, the jury's going to hear it, and then maybe it doesn't have an effect on the listener, and then hearsay's just out, and then we've just broken the rules of evidence. So is there a way we can do this so that Mr. Bowles doesn't get to spend the next half an hour?
Why don't you just ask her if any text message between the two of them what, if anything, it had on the effect of the investigation.
Yes, I was going to ask you that. And we are going to have Sarah Zachary as a witness, so we're not going to. But after the phone call and text occurred, did you learn and did you investigate whether rounds had been thrown away on the set, on the scene?
I received a statement of that.
Okay, that rounds had been thrown away on the.
All right, counsel clerk.
Corporal, did you investigate whether rounds were thrown away?
Again, that was a statement in an interview.
And I'm not asking about the statement. I'm asking if you investigated that at all.
I'm not really sure how to, if you want to reword it a different way.
Sure. Did you try to locate rounds that were thrown away?
Over a month later?
I'm just asking the question if you tried to do that. Okay.
That statement was given over a month later.
And likewise, the search of PDQ props was over a month after the shooting incident, correct?
Correct.
And so there would have been time for Mr. Kinney, had he wanted to get rid of evidence if he had wanted to. Is that a fair statement?
If he had wanted to.
Okay. Did you also investigate whether items had been taken from the prop cart to the prop truck after the shooting? Because Ms. Gutierrez Reed made that statement.
And Mr. Bowles, can you just tell her what statement you're referring to? I think this is not hearsay, so I think Ms. Gutierrez's statements
Why
can come
doesn't
in.
he just ask if she did that without the added part, unless
Sure.
it's necessary?
Yes, and I just was trying to ask her if you investigated whether items had been taken from the prop cart to the prop truck.
Can you give a time period?
Yes, right after the shooting, before law enforcement got there.
So during the investigation, it was relayed to me that there had been firearms that were secured back in the prop truck.
And my question was, did you investigate to determine whether that was correct?
I'm not really, I'd say it was a statement given to me, and we had done a search on the prop truck.
Okay.
So,
were you able to corroborate that?
well, I don't know exactly what guns were identified to which actor, so I can't really say.
Okay, so you didn't.
I would say that we followed up on it.
Okay. You also saw on the video where a man at the scene had reached across the crime scene tape. You recall that video?
Yes.
Do you recall seeing his hand that it was kind of like this, and he put it down on the cart over the tape? Do you recall seeing that?
I recall seeing him grab something off the cart and then putting it back.
Do you recall seeing his hand being behind his back and coming around sort of shaped like this and then go over the tape onto the cart?
No.
You don't recall seeing?
Your Honor, this is Mr. Bowles testifying. Mr. Bowles is testifying because he didn't get the right information from Benedict.
All right. Move on.
I will. You don't know whether he put something on the cart or whether he took something off, do you?
And I will object to foundation because this witness wasn't there.
That's why I asked her if she didn't know. That's why I said you don't know.
All right, so she's already said that she doesn't know. So let's move on.
Now, I want to ask you more about Seth Kenney. You never took his fingerprints, correct?
Correct.
And you never took his DNA, correct?
That's correct.
And you also never took his phone to be downloaded like the other phones that you took, right?
That's correct.
So, Mr. Kenney, I know you mentioned had shown you certain text messages and other information, but you never got the entirety of what was on his phone, correct?
It wasn't a full extraction, if that's what you're referring to.
Yes, right. It was not a full extraction.
That's correct.
And in contrast, you got extractions of phones for Ms. Gutierrez Reed, Sarah Zachary, Mr. Halls, and Mr. Baldwin, correct?
Yes, because they were on the set.
Okay, and you had mentioned that before, but actually Seth Kenney was the primary source of ammunition to the set.
I will object to the form of that question. It is completely contrary to the evidence that the jury has heard, and Mr. Bowles knows it.
Actually, Your Honor, I don't. And I'm asking her a question that's perfectly permissible to ask her. If she disagrees...
Go ahead and ask the question.
Okay, look, my question to you is, were you aware that Seth Kenney was the primary ammunition supplier to the set?
I don't know if I would say primary, but he was a source of ammunition.
Okay, he was a source of ammunition to the set. And knowing that, isn't it true that it would be possible for his fingerprints to be on the boxes or ammunition he supplied?
It could be possible.
And in fact, you submitted for potential fingerprints those 4 blank rounds that we saw earlier to the FBI, right?
Yes.
But you did not send any of the live rounds for fingerprint testing.
I think that was discussed with the FBI. Why?
And I understand that, but why would it be different, in your understanding, to send the blanks versus the live rounds?
I'm sorry, the blanks?
The blanks you sent for fingerprint testing, why were they different? And why could you not have sent the live round? Why is there a difference?
Do you mean the cartridges?
The cartridges.
Okay, those aren't blanks.
I'm not blanks, I'm sorry. The cartridges you sent, you're right. Already fired cartridges that you sent. Why is that different than the live rounds?
That test was not requested by us.
The test? Which
for
test?
Those cartridges?
For which cartridges?
You're talking about the 4 casings.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yes. So that test came from the request for it came from Miss Morrissey.
Okay, so the special prosecutor decided that she was going to try to test the cartridges for the fingerprints, is that right?
Yes.
So, given that, I'm just trying to figure out why the live rounds couldn't have also been tested.
I had that discussion with you several times, I believe. Right?
We did. We talked about it. And
yes.
I just still wanted to ask you why those weren't submitted, because wouldn't it have been possible?
I think you heard testimony from the FBI that they wouldn't.
I don't think they said they wouldn't. I think they said a very low percentage.
Correct. So that, again, I had this discussion with the district attorney's office, with our crime scene technician, along with our FBI Albuquerque representative, and I believe we took it back to the lab representatives as well, as to DNA and latent print testing on the live ammunition that we had found on set. So the reason why we did not proceed, which I had discussed with you, as to why we did not do that testing, was because there were several statements throughout my interviews and investigation in general that these live rounds had already been touched, handled. This wasn't day 1 of filming. I believe this was day 12. So we had already had statements that these rounds, one, may have came from other movie sets, which were the ones in the bandoliers. The ones in the box had been handled by Sarah Zachary, along with, the ones that were in the weapon handled by Hannah and Dave. And there's just a lot of handling of those rounds that to us and the discussions that we had, it didn't make sense for us to do testing on those when we already knew that there were numerous people handling them. It didn't make sense, which I discussed that with you, and I also referred, if you had any issues with that, going further to discuss it with the district attorney's office.
And you had no idea when those rounds appeared on set? You don't have any direct evidence of that?
Of when they did?
Yes.
No.
So you have no idea if they appeared on day 1 or day 11?
Correct.
So given that, the statement you just made about all this handling, you really don't know that, do you? Because you don't know when they came onto set.
Again, there's a lot of people handling that stuff on set.
Well, if they appeared on the day in question, if that box had just appeared, then you have no idea how many people handled those, do you?
If that box had just appeared.
Yes, right.
If.
Right. You don't know.
Right.
Okay. And so you also heard Ms. Gutierrez Reed state that they would frequently use dummies, and then they would mix them out with other boxes. And I asked Popple that. Did you hear that testimony?
Yes.
And so you don't know one way or another, because you just saw the boxes as they were in the 21st, whether those were the same rounds in the same box on the 18th, for example.
That's correct.
Okay. And you wouldn't know if they had used them before and then changed them out in a different box, correct?
Who are you referring to?
Ms. Zachary and Ms. Gutierrez Reed. If they use them in the course of a day, you don't know which box they would have put them in.
That's correct.
Okay. When you went to Mr. Kinney's business to search, that was pursuant to search warrant again, correct?
Yes.
And so a judge again signed a search warrant on probable cause to search that business, correct?
Yes.
And you were looking for certain evidence of live rounds, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Did you take a series of photos at that search warrant?
Did I? No.
Okay, Ms. Popple did?
Yes.
But you were present to see the various things that were there and that were being photographed.
Yes.
There was a picture that I want to show you in a moment of a box of ammo that had a steel wool in that picture. Do you recall that?
I do not. I'm sorry.
Okay. I want to show that to you.
So I do have an objection. This photo is not in evidence, and I don't know that the photo can come into evidence through this witness. Would you like to approach, or?
I want to see what he's going to do.
All right.
Yeah. And Counsel, you had mentioned this was coming in. So this picture is the one that we talked about.
No. I told you the other picture from Mr. Kinney was coming in during his testimony. That is a photo that you should have gotten in through Ms. Popple, and you can call her back if you want to.
Well, if you want to, I'm going to ask her if she recognizes it. If I may approach her. Do you recall, ma'am, if you can look at this photo?
Yeah.
Let's see if you recognize that box.
I couldn't say for certain.
So you don't remember seeing this particular box and the steel wool and the rounds in here? You don't remember this from the search?
Your Honor, asked and answered. She's already said.
Sustained.
Okay, we'll call Officer Popple back. Let me ask you this. How many times have you prepped your testimony with Miss Morrissey?
A few.
How many times have you met with her? How many days?
I couldn't say an exact number.
Was it 2? Is it 3?
Again, I couldn't say an exact number.
So you don't know how many days you've met to prepare?
An exact number? No, and
No.
I don't want to just assume.
Okay. Have you talked to her on the phone about it?
Yes.
Did you go over the questions she was going to ask you and your answers?
Yes.
So, in essence, you practiced for today, right?
Yes.
So, your testimony that you've gone over these exhibits, you've gone over what you're going to say today.
That's correct.
So, when you gave those answers earlier, in fact, you knew what a particular exhibit number was. It was 48. That was something you all had discussed, wasn't it?
I don't believe the specific exhibit number, but again, she showed me when she would ask about it.
On a break?
Just now when she
Right.
would ask about it.
Sorry, I don't know off the top of my head what Exhibit 48 is, and I don't know that the witness does. So in order for this to make sense...
She didn't ask for clarification.
All
I
right.
think we're just going over this.
Well, if he's mentioning me, I don't know what he's talking about.
Thank you.
Well, she does, because she was the one that
Let's
prepped you, right?
move on.
Yes, I will, Your Honor. Did Miss Morrissey prep you, or was it somebody else?
Yes, she did.
So she was there talking to you, right? Or on the phone or in person? She was the one talking to you, correct?
Yes, it's pretty normal to prep with the attorney you're working with for a trial.
Did you help prep other witnesses in this case with Miss Morrissey? Were you present?
No.
Okay. As a case agent, I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just wondering if you were present during other interviews.
Asked and answered. She already said no.
Move on.
Okay. Now, Mr. Baldwin, I want to talk about him. You and Mr. Baldwin had 2 phone calls that you recorded. You recall that?
Yes.
And did you have other phone calls that were not recorded?
There may have been.
Would that be unusual for, in your standard operating procedures, to have a call with a suspect that you do not record?
So it was a phone call, so no, we're not really required to use lapels to record phone calls.
Okay, is that true though when you have a suspect in a shooting case? He's the one accused of shooting. If that person calls you, you're saying you don't have to record that?
By policy, no. I've had numerous phone calls where I potentially didn't have a lapel near me. They take time to turn on. So it's possible. There were probably other phone calls in this case that weren't recorded as well.
Do you remember the substance of the unrecorded phone calls?
Can you point them out? I don't.
I don't know because we don't have them recorded. I'm just wondering if you can remember any of the substance.
No.
So, in the recorded phone calls, do you recall a call of 13 minutes with Mr. Baldwin, approximately, in which he was driving to Vermont?
I'm sure that there was one.
Okay. And do you recall that he was...
Come over here.
Okay. Corporal, did you ever, and I don't want to know the substance, but did you ever talk to Troy Teskey in this case?
I believe very briefly.
And again, I don't want to know the substance of the call, but what during that call was Seth Kenny present?
I believe so.
And again, was this right around the time of the shooting?
I don't recall the date.
Okay. You, again, not getting into the substance, you did talk to Thel Reed in the course of this case, correct?
At your request.
And you did talk to him, though, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever talk to Joe Swanson?
I don't believe so.
On those boxes, the JS, I think you confirmed those stand for Joe Swanson?
That's what I was told, yes.
Okay. Okay, Your Honor, may I have just a moment? Ms. Morris, have you seen these transcripts on the prop card? Question?
I don't know what you're handing me, sir.
It's what you emailed me, Karen.
Is this what I emailed you?
It's what you emailed me.
Okay,
It's part of it. I didn't think the whole.
yes. Have you reviewed every word? Because you should if you haven't.
I've reviewed every word and I've listened to it. So, ma'am, you recall when I started this, I asked you a question about the first interview, and where in that first interview, Ms. Gutierrez Reed had said she loaded it over the prop car. That she unloaded that gun over the prop car. Do you recall that?
Yeah, I believe I remember her saying something to that extent.
Okay, do you recall, if I showed you pages of the transcript, would that refresh your memory as to the exact words that she had said?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I may approach?
Yeah.
There's several pages here.
Okay.
You can read those to yourself, please. And it should be highlighted.
I would request that the witness read the entire thing. Not just Mr. Bowles' highlight portion.
They're not, I didn't highlight them.
Well,
So,
someone from the defense team highlighted them.
okay, did you get to review them? Did you?
I am asking that the witness review all of them.
Stay focused. We're going to look at this.
There.
For the record, can we get the page numbers of the transcript that are being handed to the witness?
You probably should have had those because you looked at them.
I didn't take note of the
She,
page
as a
numbers.
courtesy, gave you her transcript. You can give her the page.
I'll give you the page.
It's page 28 through 32.
You're not the one examining. Please let him answer.
I will withdraw the
No.
request.
All right. Thank you.
Do you have a chance to read those?
Yes.
If you can hand those back.
Can I just read her statement?
No, it's refreshing your memory.
Okay.
You wanted the quote, but it's refreshing your memory, so
Okay.
you can remember from memory.
What are you saying, Mr. Bowles? Are you speaking to me?
Yeah, I'm saying,
What would you like, sir?
we're trying to get to the truth, that's what I think.
All right, you all. You all ask your question. I'll let you have coffee. Let's focus here with our caffeine and ask if she remembers what was said to her.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Ma'am, do you remember now the exact words that were said?
Yes.
And what were those?
Her statement was, I took them all out. It was there on the cart, too.
Okay, and again, and this is entered into evidence, do you recall actually that she said...
All right.
Sounded funny?
Yes.
You want
All right,
these-
you know what? We're going to take a break. We're going to spare you a little. All right. Please don't talk among yourselves or anyone else about the evidence received here in court.
All rise. I guess here's my problem, Judge. This has been entered into evidence. So I did refresh your memory.
Well, the
but
transcript hasn't been entered into
the
evidence.
transcript, but the actual words of this should reflect what was said on the tape, unless there's objection by the government.
All right. Welcome back. Corporal, I want to take you back to the 4 spent casings that we were discussing. Do you remember where those spent casings were found?
I do not.
Do you have any information about where and by whom they were fired?
No.
Corporal, you were asked by Mr. Bowles if the stress of the event on October 21st would affect Ms. Gutierrez's memory. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And as a trained law enforcement officer, do you know, can the consumption of drugs also affect a person's memory?
Yes.
You were asked several questions on cross-examination about your contact with some witnesses, and I want to follow up on that. You spoke to Ms. Gutierrez's stepfather, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And you spoke to him at Mr. Bowles' request, is that correct?
That is correct.
And when you spoke to Mr. Reed, he told you that the ammunition...
I'm going to object this hearsay too, if that's what we're ruling.
Well, but it came in through him. He was actually asking about the specifics of the information that she received.
Approach so we can.
Okay. Do you recall your conversation with Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Do you recall the description you were provided from Mr. Reed about the type of bullets that he believed you would find at PDQ?
Yeah, he described...
No, don't say that. Just say yes.
Yes.
Okay. When you conducted the search of PDQ, did you find live ammunition?
Yes, we did.
Was the live ammunition consistent with the description provided by Mr. Reed?
Yes, it was.
Are photos of that ammunition entered into evidence in this trial?
Yes.
Now, you were asked some questions about the photograph of the box of ammunition that Ms. Gutierrez showed you during the interview. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Why is the description or appearance of that box important for this investigation?
Because the photo that she had shown me matches the box that we found on Rust that she identified as the box she was using.
And what did you find inside that box that was noteworthy?
Live ammunition.
Mr. Bowles asked you some questions about whether or not there were safety meetings on set. Do you recall that?
Yes.
In any of the conversations that Ms. Gutierrez had with you, did she ever indicate that she was concerned or that she complained about lack of safety meetings?
No.
During the interview that you conducted on November 9th, 2021 with Ms. Gutierrez and Mr. Bowles, did you provide safety bulletins during that interview?
Yes, I did.
Did it appear to you from your interaction with Ms. Gutierrez that she had ever seen them before in her life?
No.
You were asked some questions about whether or not the prop truck was secured by law enforcement, I think in between the 21st and the execution of the warrant on the 27th. Do you remember those?
Yes.
And were you present in court when Ms. Walters took the stand?
Yes, I was.
Did you hear Ms. Walters testify under oath that the prop truck was padlocked?
Yes.
Did you also hear her testify that after the incident, she intentionally changed the padlocks?
Yes.
Did you hear Ms. Walters testify that the only person who she permitted to get into the prop truck in that time frame was actually the defendant?
Yes.
Did Mr. Baldwin call you numerous times?
Yes.
Did Mr. Kenny call you numerous times?
Yes.
Did Mr. Bowles call you numerous times?
Yes.
Did Mr. Bowles ask other witnesses or potential witnesses to contact you?
Yes.
Because of, and let me ask you, in your conversations with Mr. Bowles, did he implicate Mr. Kenny?
That seemed to be the direction he was going.
And did he put you in touch with Mr. Reed?
Yes, he did.
And did Mr. Reed implicate Mr. Kenny?
Yes, he did.
And did he put you in touch with Mr. Teskey?
I don't believe so.
Okay, you
I don't
recall that?
remember.
Okay. And based on the information that you received from Mr. Bowles and Mr. Reed, what did you do?
I followed up with the information that they provided me.
Did you petition the court for a search warrant?
Yes, I did.
Did you execute the search warrant?
Yes.
Did you seize items from PDQ?
Yes, I did.
Did that investigation lend any usable evidence that Mr. Kinney provided the live ammunition to the set of arrest?
No.
At some point, did you stop pursuing that lead?
Yes.
Why?
Because I had no evidence that supported the information that Mr. Bowles was giving me.
Do you have any information that Mr. Kinney was on the set of arrest prior to the death of Ms. Hutchins?
None.
You were asked whether or not you sent the ammunition boxes that were provided by Mr. Kinney for fingerprints and DNA. Do you recall that?
I believe so.
Would you expect Mr. Kinney's fingerprints and DNA to be on ammunition that he provided?
Yes.
And we understand that I asked you to send the 4 spent casings for print analysis. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you recall having a conversation with me where I asked you to do that?
Yes.
Did you tell me that it was highly unlikely that it was going to yield any results?
Yes.
And were you correct?
Yes, I was.
Do you know, and if you don't, just say so, when that box of the dummy rounds with the tape and the blue Sharpie writing that came from Seth Kinney, when did that arrive on set? Do you know?
I don't know the date.
In preparation for your testimony, did you meet with me?
Yes.
Did we meet over Zoom?
Yes.
Is that the only time that you met with me to prepare for testimony in this case?
I believe so.
You met with me on another occasion to prepare on another case. Is that correct?
Yes.
Why is it important for you to meet with the prosecuting attorney before you testify?
A lot of it is to refresh myself with, parts of the case and what I need to focus on, especially because this is such a big case. As you can see, I have a large binder and a large box. So it helps me to narrow down facts that I need to focus on.
And have you given truthful testimony today?
Yes.
When you met with me, did I tell you what to say?
We talked about what was going to be discussed.
Did I tell you what testimony to give?
Yes.
But what did I tell you to give? Did I tell you to tell a lie?
No.
You're telling the truth?
Yes, I am.
Did I tell you to tell the truth?
Yes.
And we know that you had an interview with Ms. Gutierrez on the 21st of October and again on November 9th of 2021. On November 9th, did it appear to you that Ms. Gutierrez had been prepped by her attorney?
Yes.
I don't have anything further.
You're excused. Next witness.
The state calls Gabrielle Pickle. Give us just a quick moment to track her down.
Okay, you're going to face the judge and raise your right hand. Stand up.
Stand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you'll give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, have a seat, talk into the microphone.
Ma'am, go ahead and state your name for the record, please.
Gabrielle Pickle.
And in October of 2021, how were you employed?
Could you rephrase the
In
question?
October of 2021, how were you employed?
I think you're going to need closer.
Sorry. As to type of employment or my job title? I'm sorry.
Were you employed on the set of Rust?
Yes.
What was your position?
Line producer.
What is a line producer? Please let the jurors know what that is, what you do.
Basically the project manager, specifically focusing on the budget and managing the budget.
And did you have conversations with Ms. Gutierrez about getting what I'm going to refer to as additional armorer days?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jury how was her employment set up in terms of armorer days and prop assistant days? Let these folks know how you had it arranged.
So we had originally, it all depended on the schedule, and we had originally scheduled 5 days with blanks on set. And so we had 5 armor days. And then as the schedule changed due to other departments and us filming, it expanded, meaning that we would need to split up some scenes and whatnot. And so it became 7 armor days, I believe. And then she requested different ones for different reasons. And I believe by the end of it, we had 10 armor days, if I remember correctly. And
so let me stop you. So when she asked you for additional armorer days, you gave them to her.
yes,
Did you actually double the number of armorer days that she was originally scheduled for?
yes,
So I think you just testified that she had 10 armorer days total. Is that right?
that is to the best of my recollection, yes.
As of October 21st, 2021, how many days of filming had even happened?
Sorry, this is gonna,
Yeah, no,
Take
take
a
your time,
minute.
and if you need to see a calendar, we can provide
that would
you.
actually be very helpful.
Sure.
It was 2 weeks and 2 days, I believe.
Is that 21? Of course. All right.
Yes, 2 weeks and 2 days. So a total of 12. We were on our 12th shooting day.
So out of 12 days of filming, you gave her 10 armorer days, correct?
I believe a couple of those were training days, which would have been right prior to shooting.
Okay. And did Ms. Gutierrez ask you for additional training days?
There was an incident where she requested training that would involve Brady, which was a minor who did not fire weapons in the movie, and I denied that for insurance purposes. But that was the only one that we denied.
Did Ms. Gutierrez ask you specifically, well, let me rephrase. did Ms. Gutierrez tell you that she needed additional training time with Alec Baldwin?
Not phrased like that. Alec was, in the question around Brady, Alec was going to be present because their characters in the script were so often together, but it was specifically for Brady to learn, to learn. The request was not because Alec needed more time.
It was because Brady wanted to do some gun training.
Yes.
And you said no because of insurance reasons?
Yes.
And what went into that decision? What were the insurance concerns that you had?
We would have had to inform insurance, and then we would have had to pay a little bit more money, because the minor element.
Because he's a child.
Yes.
Right? Okay. At any point in time, did you express concerns to Ms. Gutierrez that she was leaving firearms unattended?
I did, in an email, and then in person.
Do you recall the date?
I do not.
Would seeing a copy of it refresh your memory?
Yes, it would.
May I approach? I will, yes.
I'm sorry.
No, do you need
Eyeballs.
glasses?
No, October 14th.
Okay. I'm sorry.
October 14th is the date.
Did that refresh your memory?
It did. Thank you.
And did you suggest to Ms. Gutierrez a way of remedying the problem of leaving firearms unattended?
Yes.
What did you suggest?
Some type of logging system? Check in, check out?
And did she respond to you?
She did respond via email.
And did she agree to a check-in, check-out log system?
No.
Why not, if she told you?
She said that it was too complicated to do in between scenes. And they had a system that they were working with, and I'm trying to recollect, that was end of day, I believe.
Okay. Did you then have an in-person meeting with Ms. Gutierrez?
Yes.
And who was present at that meeting?
Myself, Brian Norvell, who was the production designer, Hannah, and I believe Roe was there for part of it, the UPM, and then she stepped away to handle something else.
And why would Mr. Norvell be there?
Because as production designer, he's over everything that is the look of the film, and that includes armor.
And did Ms. Gutierrez express concerns about being torn between armorer duties and prop assistant duties?
Can you rephrase?
At any point in time, did Ms. Gutierrez indicate to you that she did not have enough time to focus on her armorer duties because she was busy doing props?
No. The reverse would be true. So she focused more on her armorer duties and less on her props duties.
And did that create an issue for you? Let me ask you, did you ask Ms. Gutierrez to spend less time on armor duties and more time supporting props?
On props days, yes.
And when you say props days, what do you mean?
Meaning where she was not acting as armor. They were not the armor days that we just referenced.
And in the meeting that you had with Ms. Gutierrez, did you offer her additional support so that she could accomplish her tasks for both jobs?
Yes.
What additional support did you offer?
It was a collaboration of offers between production and the art department.
So my question is, what support was being offered to her?
Admin support, organizational, all the paperwork, to try to take as much off of her plate as possible so that she could really focus on the set duties.
After the meeting where you offered support, did Ms. Gutierrez again tell you that she was spread too thin?
No, we seem to have a plan to move forward.
Did Ms. Gutierrez ever express concerns to you that Mr. Baldwin wasn't paying attention during his firearm training that she conducted with him?
Not that I recall.
In terms of the I apologize, I lost my train of thought. I'm over 50 and it's getting late in the day. Is there a difference in pay for armorer and prop assistant?
Yes.
Which pays more?
Armor.
And did Ms. Gutierrez also express, perhaps not concerns, but desires to you that her armorer days be something that would be recognized by the union?
So she and I had had a conversation early on in her hire about the production once we had wrapped, and I can't remember the exact procedure, but basically writing down her days to submit them to the union to count toward her qualification. I don't remember it being armor specific. I thought it was all days, but that is my memory.
Okay. And do you know what union she was attempting to become a part of?
It was the California local union. I cannot remember the number off the top of my head, the number of their specific local.
Are you a member of that union?
I am not.
Do you know whether or not you have to be a resident of California to be a member of that union?
I do not.
All right. I'm going to show you what I have marked as States Exhibit 148. Let me confer. May I approach?
Yes.
Do you recognize that document?
Yeah, it's a union start. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
Is this document signed by Ms. Gutierrez?
Yes.
Is this document also signed by you?
Yes.
Is one of the purposes of this document to seek reimbursement for her armorer expenses?
Yes.
I move for the admission of State's Exhibit 148.
Yeah, I think the document is still hearsay.
What document is it? And counsel approach?
I'm sorry, Judge, I forgot to talk. Guys, we need to... Let me shift gears real quick, and then we'll go back. On the days that there was not blank gunfire on the set of Rust, were there prop guns being used by actors that were in fact real guns?
I don't know.
Okay. I appreciate that. Rather than introduce the exhibit, have you reviewed this exhibit?
Yes.
And was it submitted to you by Ms. Gutierrez?
It was submitted to my team, who then submitted to me by Ms. Gutierrez.
Okay. And you signed it?
Yes, I did.
And what was the first item that Ms. Gutierrez was requesting reimbursement for? Do you recall?
Something called an inertia puller.
Thank you. Let me just review my notes real quick. I'll pass the witness.
Cross-exam?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Picker, good afternoon. I wanted to ask you first on the hiring process for Ms. Gutierrez Reed. Mm-hmm. Was this a collaborative process with the producers?
It was.
Okay. Did you have input into that process, into hiring her?
Yes.
Okay. Ultimately, were you the one that made the decision to hire her?
No, I made the offer.
Okay. Who made the actual decision?
I mean, I would say it was a collaborative decision from the
Okay.
top down. Everybody had to sign off.
And so part of that offer process was that she would be hired as a key props assistant and an armorer, correct?
Yes.
And ma'am, you've testified today that you had allocated 10 armor days to her?
I believe so.
Okay. And as part of that film, how many total days of filming do you recall were there going to be to complete the film?
We had not decided at this point. It was, I believe, 22 or 23, if I remember correctly.
Okay, and I'm not holding you to a specific date, but it was 22 or 23 in your memory.
Yes.
Okay, so out of that 22 or 23, approximately less than half, Ms. Gutierrez Reed was going to be in an armor position.
Correct.
Okay. Now, by the time of the shooting incident on October 21st, I think you had said there had been approximately 12 days?
12 filming days.
12
yes.
filming days, okay. Do you know how many training days had happened by that point?
I don't recall. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Do you recall a training where Ms. Gutierrez Reed conducted for actors and some of the producers?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall how many people were at that training?
Total?
Yes.
I do not.
Yeah.
I know there were we had producers. I was there for the first training and then I had to leave for something else. There were multiple actors that were trained that day. I would say a handful of crew that were there, as well as actors.
Okay, and so just in terms of numbers, can you tell the jury just an idea, if you have a ballpark, how many people?
I would say between 7 and 12
Okay.
at any given time.
And was Ms. Gutierrez Reed, in your memory, training them all together, or were they grouped, or how did that training work?
She started off with some general training and then worked with them kind of individually to figure out, because they had to figure out the right weapons for their characters and things, and so she worked them through that, and also their level of comfort with different types of blanks, and so that was more individual, but there were multiple people there at a time.
Do you know approximately how long that training was?
No, I was only there for probably an hour.
Okay. Did you see Mr. Baldwin there being trained?
He was not at that training. No, he was not in the state at that point.
Okay. And ma'am, do you know if he at one point was able to attend some type of training with Ms. Gutierrez Reed?
He did.
Did you witness that training?
I did not.
Okay. So you don't have any personal knowledge of observing it, but you do know that it happened.
I know that it was on the schedule.
Okay.
That is the extent of my personal knowledge. We coordinated with multiple departments to make sure that could happen.
Okay. Do you know whether Ms. Gutierrez Reed had requested to do cross-draw training with Mr. Baldwin?
I don't recall that at all.
Okay. Do you know whether Mr. Baldwin ever had cross-draw training on set?
I have no idea.
Okay. With regard to the duties that she was performing, I think she said she was focusing more on her armor duties. Is that right?
Yes.
And do you recall telling her that she was hired in both positions and that she needed to be focusing more on her props duties?
On props days, yes.
Okay. And those props days were delineated in the schedule, correct?
Yes.
No, on those
Or
props
by
days-
the schedule.
I'm sorry?
I just wanted to reword that. They were delineated by the schedule. They did not necessarily appear on the schedule.
Okay. Would some of those days include use of weapons on those props days?
The difference was blank firing. So if there were blanks present, then that was an armor day.
Okay, but if there were not blanks present, but there's firearms present, would you agree with me that that's still an armor function?
I mean, it was a Western, so everything that the actors touched is considered a prop, and that was where we had the line between like props and armor.
Okay, well, so did you consider the firearms to be the props?
Some of them were.
Okay. Which ones were props versus not props?
I cannot speak to that.
Okay.
It's not my area of expertise.
Okay, but at least your understanding was at least some of the firearms were props.
Yes.
Now, was that clearly delineated to Ms. Gutierrez Reed as to which firearms were props and which ones were under armor?
That information more came from her because she was the expert in weaponry, not
Okay.
myself.
Okay, was that written down somewhere, which firearms would be which?
I don't believe so, not
Okay.
to my knowledge.
Okay. And then, with regard to non-blank days, were those all prop days?
Yes.
Okay. So if there weren't blanks being fired, even if there are firearms being used, those are props days?
Correct.
Okay. Now, didn't you attend and witness some of the trainings that Ms. Gutierrez Reed had done? You said you spent an hour at the one.
Mm-hmm.
And were you impressed at how she handled the training?
I was.
Okay.
I learned a lot.
Did you have any issues or anybody come to you and complain about it?
About the training?
Yes.
No.
Okay. The date of the incident, are you familiar with Video Village?
Yes.
Were you aware that the day this happened, the Video Village went down?
Can you further expand on that?
Yes, that Video Village was not operating the day that the shooting occurred.
Is this due to the camera delay? Is that what you're referencing?
Well, I'm just, actually, I was going to ask you first if you knew about that, Video Village going down.
No.
Okay, but you said there was a camera delay.
Mm-hmm.
Was that because, were you aware the camera crew had walked off the day before?
Yes.
Okay. And were you aware they had come back that next day?
Yes.
Did you have any interaction with any of them?
Yes.
Did you end up calling the police?
On them?
Yes,
No.
for any reason. Okay, so was it a pleasant interaction?
Not particularly.
Okay.
But I was just there to make sure they took their stuff and then the production rentals stayed where they were.
Okay. How long were they on set that next day?
I do not remember. As short a time as we could manage for them
Okay.
to pack up their gear.
Okay, you were trying as you could.
Well, we needed to start our day, so we were trying to, move that first and then get rolling.
Did that delay the start of that day?
It did.
Do you know approximately how long that was delayed?
Hours?
So at the time you all were able to start the day and start the various things you're going to do, you're already hours behind.
Yes.
Okay. So was there a general perception of trying to move quick that day, or
No,
get things done?
we had to replace the camera team, and we all know that takes time to get new people into the rhythm. We had been meeting with different people in charge to figure out what we were moving to other days, and how we were going to absorb basically what could have been a half-day loss at that point. So there wasn't rushing. All the other departments had all of those hours to do whatever they saw fit. The only people that were really intensely focused was the new camera team, trying to learn the equipment and get up to speed.
Do you know whether on that day Ms. Gutierrez Reed had already used her armor days?
I know that day was an armor day.
But do you know if she had already used her armor days that had been allocated?
No, that one was also approved.
Okay. Because you were on day 12, and I'm just wondering, because you said you gave her 10.
They weren't necessarily consecutive.
Okay, okay. But you don't know how many she had used up to that day?
I do not.
Okay.
No.
At one point, didn't you tell Ms. Gutierrez Reed that she wasn't going to be allocated any more training days? But I think you actually worded it training days.
I did. I misspelled in the text message. Yes.
Yes, and it was a text with her, and this was you remember approximately what day that was?
I do not.
And why did you tell her there would be no more training days is what you were trying to say?
At that point, we didn't need them. And she and I had communicated since the very beginning that we wanted to keep track of all of her armor days. And so we texted back and forth fairly often. I mean, every few days.
And do you recall what the context was, why she was asking for more training days?
So the specific instance that I remember was her asking for a training day with Alec and our minor lead, Brady. And that was the one that I said no to, due to it being a minor.
And I just want to ask you if I showed you a text, would it refresh you as to the date that this occurred? That this exchange occurred?
Yes.
Okay. May I approach?
I think I have it in front of me.
Okay, if you can read this, ma'am. And
Sorry, there are 2 dates on this page. I can read. October 15th, 2021.
And do you recall getting that text or having this text exchange with Ms. Gutierrez Reed?
Why don't you go back here?
I'm sorry.
Why don't you go back
Oh,
here
yes.
so you keep asking him questions?
Do I?
No, she needs to retrieve that from me. Are you going to retrieve that from her?
Yes. Once she, are you finished reading it now?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall having that text exchange?
Yes.
Ms. Gutierrez Reed? Okay. And that was in regard to the training of Alec Baldwin.
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember Ms. Gutierrez Reed saying she's on day 6, and this would be day 7 of 8 of her training days, her armory days. Do you recall that?
Mm-hmm.
Does that change your opinion as to how many armor days she had, that she had 8 as opposed to 10?
No, I believe her armor days, and we can check the pay stubs, but I believe she had the 10 armor days. It may have been that 8 were filming days, and 2 were training days. I do not recall the exact split, but I do recall it being 10 days.
If you are able to, can you pull those pay stubs?
I don't have access to them anymore.
Okay.
That would be.
'Cause we've also have you under subpoena. You're aware of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so we may recall you in our case.
Counsel approach.
Yeah. And ma'am, if your memory is correct, it's correct. But if your memory is 10 days.
That is my memory.
Okay. And I'm just trying to figure out what you remember. With regard to the accidental discharges that occurred on set, did you become aware of those?
I was made aware of one. It was reported to the UPM, Roe Walters, and she informed me that it had happened, and I asked her to investigate, and she did, and reported back that she and Hannah had a conversation, and she felt very good with where the precautions that were in place.
Okay, so you said you were aware of one. Do you know which one this involved?
It was one reported by Lane Looper via text message to Roe. I don't know if that's in evidence.
Who is Lane Looper?
He was one of the camera crew.
Okay. So, as I understand, Mr. Looper was raising a safety issue through a text, and that went to Roe Walters?
Yes.
And then that was investigated. Then what occurred as a result of that, if anything?
It was investigated. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I do not recall.
Now, are you now aware there were 2 accidental discharges?
I found that out afterwards, yes.
When did you learn that?
Maybe 3 or 4 days after the incident.
Do you know whether there was any investigation after you learned of that second one?
Could you clarify?
Yes. Do you know whether there was any investigation done after you learned of the second accidental discharge? Did anybody look into it, to your knowledge?
I do not know.
Okay. Did you do anything personally once you learned about the second one? Did you do anything to investigate that?
Everything was shut down at that point. Like, I found out through other attorneys asking me questions. This was not a set discovery or on-set discovery.
And I was wondering, because the discharges were the 16th, and I think you said 3 or 4 days later.
Sorry. The discharge that I was made aware of via Roe was the only one that I knew about during filming. The others I found out about 3 or 4 days after the 21st.
I see, okay.
Once everything had shut down and everybody was trying to figure out what was going on.
Okay.
That's when that came to my attention.
Okay. Now, with an accidental discharge like this, you have things called a production report, correct?
Correct.
And that is basically a daily log of what happened that day that might be important?
Mm-hmm.
And ma'am, would you expect that something like an accidental discharge would be put on a production report?
I would like it to be.
With regard to these, do you know if they made it onto a production report?
I do not recall.
Okay.
I would need to see the production reports.
Okay. But in any event, with regard to the second one, doesn't sound like it made it on the report.
I was not aware of it, and I did read every production report.
Whose responsibility in the chain of command would it be to report those accidental discharges?
Anyone on set?
Would the first assistant director have responsibility? In terms of the production report?
So the AD team is responsible for the production report.
Okay.
Yes. If they were not made aware, I don't know how to answer that question.
Oh, okay. So they have to become aware of it.
Yes, somebody would need to let them know in order.
Okay. And if they do become aware of it, do they have a duty then to?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Are you aware whether daily safety meetings were being conducted on set?
Safety meetings were being conducted. They were not every day. They were typically on the days where there was any type of bigger element, special effects, stunts, blank days, etc.
Okay. And do you know with regard to safety bulletins, whether those were being attached to the call sheets on a daily basis.
Some were, and some were not, which I found out days after the incident.
You also, during this time, had a COVID. This was October 2021. So did you have a COVID protocol?
We did.
And in general, was that pretty much what we all knew at the time, to limit contact, to wear a mask? I mean, what did that entail?
You're testing my memory. We tested. I cannot remember how often. Frequently. Everybody wore masks. We had hand sanitizer everywhere. Everything was wiped down. I think that was about it.
Okay. Did you know whether Ms. Gutierrez Reed was vaccinated or not?
We did not ask for vaccination information from cast and crew.
Okay. And I guess in general, I take it that in general, you wouldn't want a lot of people in a small space if you could help it. Like if there's filming going on in a small building, that's kind of what the COVID protocol was at the time?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was not often practical because filming takes place in small buildings.
Sure. But to the extent possible, that was the goal?
Yes, that was the goal.
Okay. Your Honor, just a moment.
Redirect.
Ms. Pickle, do you recall the entire text communication that you had with Ms. Gutierrez regarding the training days?
I would need to review.
Would showing you the entire text thread refresh your memory?
Yes.
I'm going to ask you to review pages 12,201 through 12,205.
Okay.
May I? I'm going to ask her some other questions about the thread.
Those aren't admitted to it.
No, I know. I'm refreshing her memory. I just asked if she remembered the thread. She said no. I'm going to refresh her. May I?
Yes.
Do you know how to scroll through a Mac?
Yes.
I'm going to hand that to you. I want you to take your time. You're going to review 4 or 5 pages.
Okay.
Did that refresh your memory?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to take that back as we go through these questions. If you need to see it again to refresh your memory, just let me know.
Okay.
May I?
Yeah.
Was your memory refreshed as to the date of the text exchange regarding the training days of Alec Baldwin and Brady? You want me to approach again?
Yes, I did not look at every single date. I'm sorry.
That's okay. May I? And again, ma'am, you are welcome to scroll through.
Do I need to look at every date and have?
I don't.
Okay.
Not necessarily.
These were on the 17th of October, 2021.
So on October 17th of 2021, did you tell Ms. Gutierrez that there would be no more training days?
Yes.
And do you recall the language of her response? Did Ms. Gutierrez respond to you and say, right on?
Yes.
She's reading from a document not admitted in evidence.
Can I refresh your memory again?
Yes.
No, just don't read.
Okay.
Right.
Do you want me to ask the question again without reading it?
Yeah.
Okay. Did Ms. Gutierrez respond to you and say, right on?
Yes, she did.
That's no.
Oh, I thought that's...
No, just did she respond to you?
Did she respond to you?
She did.
Well, now we've already done it, so just
Okay.
move on.
I want to move to strike that. This
Fine,
was-
I'll strike the answer, okay? Question and answer.
Ma'am, do you recall what Ms. Gutierrez's response was to you when you said no more training days?
Right on.
Thank you.
That's fine.
Did reviewing these messages refresh your memory as to whether or not you told Ms. Gutierrez that she would have 10 total armorer days?
Yes, it is confirmed in that text chain that we both knew that there were 10 armor days.
Not 8.
Not 8, 10.
Now, we understand that you, Russ Productions hired Ms. Gutierrez to be armorer and also prop assistant, correct?
Correct.
And did Ms. Gutierrez agree to take on both roles?
Yes.
Even though production stopped on October 21st, had this incident not occurred, production was going to continue, correct?
Yes.
For a couple more weeks, is that right?
Yes.
And was it within the discretion of Rust Productions to continue to increase armorer days, if necessary, throughout the course of the filming?
Yes.
So just because she was given 10 by October 21st, that doesn't mean that she was going to be limited to 10 for the duration of the filming.
Correct.
You indicated that you were the line producer on this set.
Yes.
Prior to October 21st of 2021, how many times had you been a line producer for a film?
I feel like I should have that memorized.
And you don't have to be exact.
I've been a line producer for more than a decade.
During that decade.
4 to 5 films a year.
Okay. So 40 to 50?
Yeah.
In those 40 to 50 films, can you estimate for us how many of those films had an armorer?
Five or six, to my recollection.
Okay. Are you yourself familiar with firearms and firearm training?
No.
So, for the hour that you observed Ms. Gutierrez's firearm training, did you have any experience from which to compare it?
I have sat in on a couple of other trainings.
Okay. Did those trainings include the use of single action revolvers?
I don't know enough to answer that question.
Okay, fair enough. And you indicated on October 21st that there was a delay in filming because of replacing the camera crew, correct?
Correct.
And that filming was delayed for hours, right?
Yes.
And during those hours where filming was not occurring, was Ms. Gutierrez free to go inspect her dummy rounds and do any other work she needed to do?
Yes.
In terms of the accidental discharges, did Ms. Gutierrez bring them to your attention?
No.
Do you know whether Ms. Gutierrez brought the accidental discharges to the attention of anyone in production?
I do not have knowledge of that.
Could Ms. Gutierrez have reported the accidental discharges to production?
Without me hearing about it?
No, just could she report it to anyone in production?
Yes.
Anyone on set could, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Looper did,
Yes.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
You were asked some questions about the COVID protocol on set. Did the COVID protocol require Ms. Gutierrez to leave the firearm in the church on October 21st and leave the church?
Your Honor, I don't object to speculation, lack of knowledge, foundation.
If
I
you
have
know.
no knowledge. I can't answer that. I don't know.
Well, did you have knowledge of the COVID protocol for the set?
I had knowledge of the one-page document that we had of the basics. As far as what happened on set, that was really not my job.
Okay. The one-page document that you're talking about, did it indicate that the armor needed to be separated from the firearms?
It had no such specifics.
I don't have anything further, thank you.
This witness is excused, thank you. Counsel? Okay, so the next witness is going to take longer than the next 35 minutes, so to speak. So I think it's better that you all head out and we'll approach this fresh in the morning. So please don't talk among yourselves or anyone else about the evidence received here in court. Please don't look on Google about the Rust matter or this case, and we will avoid the delays that have somewhat occurred from time to time. We'll try to get at a better clip here, okay? Thank you.
All rise.